If we start on page 50, the next phase is now looking into the medium-term revenue and expenditure framework. And what is really important is that the terms here. Medium term is not now. Medium term is somewhere between, the first year and year 2 and 3, medium term. So forecasting is actually about you and me as well. This is my salary. If I buy a property, my salary will increase over the next 5 years, and the affordability of my payments will reduce a little bit. So I think, this is important in terms of the big scheme of things. And let me just cover that. Not a lot of detail here, but important that we just realize that there is a medium-term plan. So planning, paragraph 3.41 on page 52, there are challenges facing municipalities because the plan is not only for 1 year. Municipalities are spending money over many years, and spending them over many years actually includes the fact that the financial plan needs to cover those terms. It's not like you and me that are budgeting for a year. We're budgeting for the next 3 years, next 5 years. The fact that there's a council, and the council are responsible for service delivery over a 5-year period, I think that makes it really, really important that we look at the bigger picture of things and specifically at planning, not only for this year, but for the longer and medium term as well. So normally there's at the bottom of page 53, you can see the steps. We have covered the steps in the IDP course that we did last time, but we're also covering it in the course that is following on performance management again. But it's about planning. Planning is what do we want to do over the next 5 years? Strategy, how are we going to do it? Preparing is all the documents, the budgets, and so forth. Tabling is when we take it to council. Then it gets approved. Council will approve it. And then it gets back to us and we implement that, and we need to roll it out. So that is the idea. Financial planning is important. The next unit standard that we do is 116345. That tells us exactly how do we do the financial planning? How do we do the budget? How does MSCOA work, and so forth? Don't want to spend too much time on it in this portion of the course. If you look at page 56, it gives us a diagram of the financial planning process. And just look at the dates on the left-hand side. Your financial year end is the end of June. So the very next month, almost the next day, you already start planning 2 years ahead. Because even though your year is ending in June, it means the plan that you execute for the next year has already been done last year. So you are planning 1 year ahead. You are planning for, if you do this July this year, you're actually planning for July 2026. 1 year ahead. And then you have your municipal strategic workshop where you get all this, strategic guys, the municipal managers, the councillors, everybody on board. And then in August and October, you start looking at your new spending priorities. So for example, City of Cape Town, they need to address the Dunoon issue. That will be a new spending priority for them. They will need to look at that and so forth. If you are hosting, for example, the World Cup 2030 soccer tournament, then that will be a new spending priority. If you're building new power stations for electricity, that will be a new spending priority. And so you can see public consultation is there also in August to October, where we need to sit down with the public and say, what do you want? We are serving you. What do you want? In November and December, we sit down and we revise the IDP, the strategic plan, and the budget before we table it to council. But it's also important that somewhere in November and December, we start listing all the projects. This is a little bit more detailed. It's a little bit more cost calculation, defining the projects, budgeting for a specific project. This is a very, very important phase for a municipality. This might include maintenance on sanitation projects. In City of Cape Town, they're busy building a new dump site. So that will be a new project. This will include new roads, new housing projects, all those sort of things. So in May, after November and December, around about May, we have this budget and IDP available. They've been revised, and then we take it to council. Normally, council will approve it by the end of May, which is 30 days before the start of the new financial year, which starts on the 1st of July. Okay, this process repeats itself. The moment the end of June comes, what do? We go back to planning 1 year ahead. All right, so this is really important. So when we look at our planning, it includes many things. It includes, you can see those cursive 3.5, 4.55. It includes economic factors, it includes debt factors, it includes financial factors and administrative factors. If I can quickly go through them. Economic factors, Trump has just made some statements about Africa. He's increasing our import duty by 30%. That is an economic factor that will influence activities in the Western Cape. Exporting of wine is now going to be 30% more expensive if we export to America. Exporting meat, vehicles, whatever we export to America, it's going to become 30% more expensive for Americans. If they stop buying our products, what will happen is that we will have an economic downturn in our country. Debt factors, just like the country that are over-borrowed at the moment, some municipalities are over-borrowed. 5 years ago, that was where Drakenstein was. They were over-borrowed, and for a very long, specific time, they had to continually focus on repaying debt. Repay debt, repay debt, repay debt. And I think it's only once you get to repaying your debt that there's a little bit of relief in terms of financial. The financial sector in South Africa is important. We have a strong banking system. There's a lot of money available in our country. But you know, it's also by the fact that the government the credit rating of the government has reduced significantly. And because of that reduction in that financial sector, it influences a lot of things that we need to do. There are political data sets. That is also important. Political promises, you know, they had to activate the policy and the budget and the prioritization there. There's political oversight that is important. And why is politicians so important? Politicians can affect budgets, specifically close to election times. They make budgets, they make promises, that influences the budget, they influence those budgets, it becomes a big issue. All right. At the bottom of page 57, is, to me, probably the most important thing. Cost driver data sets. Cost driver data sets means if I provide electricity, what right now are influencing the costs of the municipality? If I find that fuel, the price of petrol is increasing significantly, how will that affect my budget for refuse removal? If I find that NERSA approves a massive increase for electricity tariffs, how will that influence the operation of a municipality? So those are cost drivers. And there's a course, when we do the next one, actually, we're going to look at cost drivers and how cost drivers are influencing, you know, what we need to do. There are many costing methods. And in the next course, we cover all those costing methods. But just to summarize to you, you know, what the basic definitions are. Traditional cost is where we look at the cost of last month and we increase it by inflation. So it was costing 10 Rand, now it's 11. Traditional cost. But that doesn't work. Why? Because mainly products are increasing by more than inflation. So we're not filling the same number of bottles every year. We're not buying the same number of government cars every year. We're not producing the same number of new roads or new houses every year. You see, traditional cost looks at last year's budget plus 10%. Activity-based says, no. Let's not use the easy way. Let's start again. How many houses will be built this year? 5? Okay, let's budget for 5. How many houses did we build last year? 10. So we don't start with a budget for 10. We start with how many do we need to build this year? 5. And therefore, let's cost the 5 houses. Okay, so that is called activity-based costing. In terms of this course, you don't need a lot of detail on that now. It comes with the next course. So the cost drivers, bullet point number 3.5.6, that is probably the most important thing in terms of if we budget for something. I want to use an example. It's not an example in the handbook, but it will explain it to you. You see, if you build a new house, there's many costs that will go into the house. For example, you need an engineer, you need to buy bricks, you need to buy cement, and you need to buy windows. So now what is the cost driver? The cost driver of an engineer is time. So if you ask an engineer to redesign your plan 20 times, and every time he does that, he's asking you for 1 hour of labor, that means the cost driver is his labor hours. And the more questions you ask him, the more hours he will spend, the more expensive a project. If you want to buy bricks, you will calculate the quantity of bricks you need to build a house. If there's a lot of wastage, so they keep on breaking the bricks, into half bricks, you end up with a lot of wastage in the end, and that pushes up the costs. Windows, you need to calculate the size of the windows, and the size of the window will determine the cost. You see, every item on our income statement, every item on our cost has a cost driver. Sometimes the cost driver is quantity, sometimes it's hours, sometimes it's size. A bigger window is more expensive than a small window. A bigger truck is more expensive than a small bakkie. So sometimes it's size, sometimes it's square meters. A bigger office is more expensive than a small office. So we need to find the cost drivers, and municipalities often gets that wrong, is they don't look at the cost driver to reduce cost. We use traditional costs. We have a big office, but all our staff is working from home. Do we need the big office? Shouldn't we rent it out? Or do we keep this big office so that people can come into the office for 1 day a month or 1 day a week, and we still pay the cost? The cost drivers is the size of the office. Maybe we need smaller offices. Maybe we don't need the office at all and we can sell it. What is the cost driver? Really important. The next course, we are really exploring cost drivers. On paragraph 3.5.7, you can see they talk about the ABC costing system. It is a system that we use to manage stock management, or to do stock management. It helps us to reduce the volume of stock that we keep. It is a tool to mitigate over expenditure. You don't need to know about the ABC costing system for this course, because when we do supply chain management, about 7 lectures from now, we go into depth into the ABC costing system. But what ABC says, A items are critical. We must have them. And therefore we have them in store, and we need space for them. C items are luxury items. We don't need them. We don't have to have them on premises. We can order them when we need. We don't need to keep it. Therefore, we need smaller space. It's also a cost-driving tool. So cost drivers are important, and you can see all the activity-based costing, activity-based management tools, and so forth that are running through this. There's a case study on Buffalo City. You can read through that case study, and it gives you some sort of sense of what they have achieved. What is the benefits for municipalities if you understand your cost drivers? So the benefits are really important. You are lowering your costs. Look at that second bullet point on page 64. The further benefits are clear when we are budgeting. If you understand what your cost driver is, it changes your budget. If you take last year plus 10%, you don't have a lot of maneuvering ability, because your budget last year was 1 million, this year is 1.1 million. But when you look at the cost drivers, you can actually get your 1 million rand budget to go down to 900,000, simply because you understand what the cost drivers are. I cannot tell you about one municipality that has got this right yet. I've done some work for City of Cape Town. I think they are getting it right in the refuse removal. They understand the cost drivers in the refuse removal, and therefore the cost of refuse removal has come down. But in other areas like water management, they haven't got it right yet. I think in some smaller municipalities like Bergrivier, they are implementing some of these cost drivers. It will take us another 3 or 4 years before we're going to get to the point where we can actually utilize cost drivers effectively. MSCOA will force us to get to that example. All right. Please work through this Buffalo City example. If you don't understand the example, please contact me, and then we will have a session where I will explain it in a little bit more detail. And also remember that in the next unit standard, we will expand on that because that's where the budget is lying. I think here, I just want to highlight what is at the bottom of page 68. Do you remember earlier we spoke about the SDBIP? So the SDBIP is your operational plan for this year. In your operational plan for this year, there's a lot of things that are informing that. And here they've chosen 6 of them. So the first one is quality of spending. You see, if you waste a lot of money and you buy things at excessive prices, you can't achieve all your goals. Because your goals need money so that you can deliver on those goals. So paying excessive prices reduces the opportunity that you achieve your goals. Number 2, if you really focus on your SDBIP, you can deliver services to all people. This is where equity comes in. A person that is rich has an equal right to services from the municipality. Your SDBIP plans how we get services to the rich, the middle class, and the poor. So if we have better quality of spending, it improves service delivery. Your budget helps you to measure. Because your SDBIP has targets, everybody has a target. How many potholes are we going to fill? How many roads are we going to maintain? How many new kilometers of water pipes are we going to implement? How many power stations are we going to build? You know, so all of those things are performance objectives. And what the SDBIP does, it actually measures performance against those objectives. Number 4, financial and non-financial indicators. Financial indicators, are we spending within budget? Non-financial, are we building the number of houses that we intended to build? So it's financial, what happened to the money? Non-financial, what happened to the service delivery? Then we go to reporting. You see, those first 4 things, if we get them that right, it ends up in a good report. That good report gives us information. Good information helps us to make better decisions. If we mess it up, it leads to bullet point number 6, increased accountability. See, a SDBIP commits an accounting officer, commits a municipal manager. It commits them to actually improve, to deliver. And if they don't deliver, there's accountability. I like, if I'm in the audience like yourself, you know, I'll take a picture of that and say, you know, when I do my job and I do it well, how do I want to make sure that I do my job well? Just a second. Okay. Just a second. If I want to do my job well, I need to get those 6 things ready. I need to fix all 6 of them. And if I don't sort them out, then I'm going to end up in a space where I get it wrong. So what do I need to do? Look at my quality of expenditure. Look at my service delivery outcomes. What do I need to deliver to the rich, middle class, and the poor? Number 3, where are my key performance objectives? What are my financial and non-financial indicators? Not only financial and non-financial. Am I building the right number of houses? Do I have reports that can give me an indication of this? And then the last one, what happens if I get it wrong? I'm just going to take a 30-second break. There's somebody who wants to get into the office. Give me a second. Sorry about that. I just had to. So I would take a picture of that and just make sure that I understand those principles. I want to, if we go to page 71, it talks about understanding municipal financial indicators. Once again, these financial indicators, we will cover them extensively 2 lectures from now when we do the ratio analysis. And there's not a lot that you need to take from this course right now in terms of this. But there are some of them, and let me just run through them. Number 1, coverage of short-term portion of long-term liabilities. And what that basically means, can you pay your debt? Like you and me. No? What it is, can you pay your bond? Can you pay your car payment? The next one is short-term debt. Can you pay your overdraft? Can you pay the interest on your overdraft? That is important. Number 5423, debtors. Do you collect your debtors? How long are they outstanding? If they are too long outstanding, it means you're waiting for cash. If you're waiting for cash, you can't spend. Your creditors test. Are you paying your suppliers? Do you pay them within 30 days? Because that's what the PFMA and the MFMA is requiring. The capital cost burden, how much is the interest that you pay on your developments? Just like you and I are paying interest on our bonds, what is that interest that we pay? Staff cost is what is the total staff cost, the employee cost that we pay? What portion of our budget is going towards staff? What is interesting in good municipalities, the answer is about 28%. In municipalities that are struggling, the answer is often 40%. We spend a lot of money on staff, but we don't get the job done. And that is an important ratio. And National Treasury talks about 35%, but most good municipalities, strong municipalities, are running below 30%. Grant dependency is how much money are we getting from national government as support, as bailouts. I often talk about grant dependency. I talk about the size of the bailout. On the next one, how much of your budget is cash funded? Do you need to borrow to pay your expenses? Or can you use cash to pay the budget? And then the last one, 54211, that is important, talks about what is the financing method for long-term assets. So how, if we build a new road, if we build a new office block, if we build a new power station, if we build a new waterworks, where do we get the money from? And if you keep on borrowing, then you end up where Drakenstein was. So Drakenstein ended up being overborrowed, and then after a while, Drakenstein had to pay off that debt. Where is South Africa now? We are overborrowed as a country. And because we are overborrowed, a lot of our cash flow every month is going towards repayment of debt. I need to vacate the one boardroom and move to another one in 2 minutes. But just to illustrate this point before I close the session, it's the same with you and me. If you buy a house that is slightly out of your reach, then every month you pay a lot of interest to your house. If you have a credit card and your credit card is always on its limit, then a lot of interest is going towards your credit cards. Okay. So that is what financing method for long-term assets mean. It means that if you borrow, the interest cost of your borrowing will be too expensive. And when that becomes too expensive, it puts your municipality at risk. Why? Because you collect money, and when you collect the money, you pay the banks. So you're not actually working for the community, you're working for the bank, because most of your money is flowing towards the banks.